Power mode, oh yeah. It's the Wide Open MX show. If you don't know, you better know. It's the Wide Open MX show. Introducing the most dope show in the world. It's the Wide Open MX show.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's Corbin from the Wide Open MX Show. We're back for episode 17 this week. Man, what a exciting weekend of racing in Anaheim 2. Not sure if we're ever going to see that much action in one weekend for the rest of the year, but hopefully so. It's currently Monday, January 20th, 7:04 p.m. Central Time. Got a lot of stuff to talk about this week. Been pretty anxious to get on the show since Saturday night, so before we get started, just want to give another shout out to Blood Lubricants. We now have our own discount code on their website. So you guys go to their website and place an order, buy some oil or chain lube or cleaners or whatever you want. Use code WIDE OPEN for 25% off your order, and we might get a small slice of that. So do that for us. Check them out at bloodlubricants.com or at Blood Lubricants on Instagram. They got very good products, and they're going to continue supporting the show. So thanks to those guys as always. And with that, what's up, guys? What's up, Jacob?
Hey, glad to be back. What a weekend of racing.
Man, it was exciting. Damon, what's going on?
Nothing much, man. Just excited to talk about the weekend. It was a hell of a race between both classes, and just excited to talk to both my buds and get it going.
Absolutely. So let's not waste any more time. We got a lot of stuff to fit in our hour and a half show. So let's move on to the 250 class. Let's talk some quick takeaways from the weekend. There's a lot of shit that happened, and we'll get to all this later, but I really don't want people to kind of forget about, Jet Lawrence's ride, because I feel like it's getting overshadowed by all the drama that's going on from last weekend. Yeah, big bummer for him, but at the same time, you got to take your hat off to this kid. He was really, living his balls out there. He was absolutely sending it the entire main event. So, Damon, let's hear your opinions on Jets weekend. Kind of a heartbreaker, but at the same time, you got to be pumped for the future.
Oh, 100%. He earned so many fans Saturday night with his ride. I mean, it was nothing but short of impressive. He led from lap 2 till the last lap, and with 3 minutes to go, the kid had a 12-second lead on the champ and everyone else. It was absolutely impressive. I mean, the kid showed that you never quit, and the coolest part near the end was that triple before the first whoop section, where Dylan came in, and it was clean. He came in to block past him, and Jet just didn't quit. He jumped that first triple all sideways and cased the next one, and just didn't let Ferrandis pass him. And the coolest part was after Dylan did get him, that when they went through that last whoop section before the inevitable happened, he came back on Dylan, which I wish he would have actually taken him even higher to secure the win. But man, the kid never quit. Doesn't matter that he's 16 years old. That was but impressive. And I want to float this to you guys. I did a little bit of research, and his ride being 16 years old for his third Supercross reminds me of 4 of the greatest guys in our sport. So Travis Pastrana in 2000, 16 years old, he won his 4th ever race in Daytona. Carmichael in 97 won his 3rd race ever in Atlanta, 16 years old. Stewart in 02 won his 2nd race ever in San Diego. And then in Wyndham in 96, he was 17, I believe. He won the 2nd season, but it was the first round in Minneapolis. I mean, you got to throw Jet's name in between those guys, because your 3rd Supercross ever, leading it pretty much all the way from start to finish, and having the speed to not only be in the lead that long, but pull that big of a gap on everyone. I mean, he's got to earn his right between the 4 greatest guys I just said, but I mean, based on how those 4 guys got their career started so young, Jet's kind of on that track right now, and it was nothing but impressive. And still to get 9th on the night for him and Dylan to lap that far up into the field, that was fucking incredible.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And I will say, dude, those last couple laps before he, endoed and almost killed himself. Those last 2 laps, dude, I couldn't sit down. I was so nervous for the kid. And you could tell he was not in a comfortable position just because he's never been there before. But you got to give it to him. He never quit sending it. And so Weaver, what were your thoughts on his weekend?
Well, the biggest thing with Jet that I thought is how as I was watching the race, I was telling my girlfriend this, and she was saying, or basically how he came from, Australia, started Supercross, insanely young, but you would never know that, if like we didn't follow it as close as we did, and we just, flipping through the channels, oh, there's dirt bike racing on, turned it on. No one would know that Jet Lawrence was 16 years old, just moved over here, third race ever. Be like, oh, this guys must have been doing this for a long time. And that's awesome. That's more racecraft that you kind of just have, because you could have, balls out speed, as there are a lot of riders that do, but to have the racecraft he does. Yeah, I was thinking more along the lines of like Christoph Purcell or something like that could go insanely fast, but didn't necessarily have the racecraft from gate drop to checkered flag. But he has that, and that is, as Damon was saying, kind of is what's filter him in to some of the greatest people we've ever seen. So I hope he keeps it going. I really think Jet's biggest thing is going to be staying off the ground in regards to his whole career, because there's been great people that have went the other way due to injury, stuff like that. But talking about this ride in particular, man, he put on a show. He really did. I mean, there was so much action going on in the back. They didn't have the camera on him a whole lot, but he had a flawless ride. He was really carrying a lot of speed in the whoops and through the corners. And like I said, like he's been doing this for a long time. So mega impressive. I didn't fully get the download. Did he get hurt?
Yeah, he broke his collarbone.
Yeah, broke his collarbone. Okay, yeah. So we're probably not gonna obviously see too much more of him. Maybe Vegas with that. I'm not sure. If depends how bad he broke it.
Definitely outdoors, I would say.
I mean, I would say with his age, where even if he didn't break it that bad, if he's going to be back for like Salt Lake, Vegas, the team, with how young he is, they're going to sit him, especially all the issues that his older brothers had with his shoulders, which that's why he's actually, the team's holding him till Hangtown too. They're probably going to wait. And I wish they wouldn't, because I mean, what we saw,
we want to see him go fast.
Exactly. So it's a huge bummer that he ended up with a concussion and the collarbone. But I thought the other thing that was cool too was when he was on the back of the mule. I mean, I know he's young and he's 16 years old, and you could just see the emotion for how
he was all upset,
bummed he was. But and I mean, you can't give the kid shit, because if we were all in his shoes at 16, you guys all know the four of us, and I know all three of you well enough. We'd all be sitting in the back of that mule crying.
And
so,
real quick, Jacob, I agree with you, but I don't think his biggest problem is going to be staying off the ground. I mean, the kid, like Damon said, is 16 years old, like where we were at 16, and he's racing in stadiums. So, like, I think the nerves that when he's 16, he's obviously not a full-grown adult yet. Just how he obviously looked like Kenny or just some really experienced rider in the 450 class already on the bike. And the last 3 laps, that's when it got pretty much to crunch time. And he knew Dylan was catching him, and 16 years old, he's going to be freaking out, especially at a normal race, but versus he's at a fucking stadium. Like, he's racing in a stadium at 16 years old, and I feel that kind of what did is just he's not fully grown yet, and at 16 years old, it's even insane that he's even racing there, but yet he's winning. So I feel just even the last 3 or 4 laps, he did freak out and crash and then make a bunch of mistakes. But I would say the last 2 laps, I think he pulled it back together, which was crazy. And then he's still obviously being 16, and what he said in social media, he's not going to back down and he's going to try to win, because that's what he's there to do.
No, you're right. The biggest thing with kind of under the lights that you were talking about is that's going to take some experience with controlling your nerves. Because I could tell you what, a little bit, I mean, I've been down on the floor, obviously just mechanicking for someone, but I've been down on that floor, and I tell you what, it's like, it's stupid. The human body is just so weird in the way we think and stuff. It's like, everyone's looking at me, but in reality, no one's looking at me. So the reason I'm saying that is because it just adds a lot of extra stress and being under those lights and stuff. I don't really believe that a lot of that, you get any of that feeling really once the gate drops, or not nearly to that extent. But yeah, that's gonna come with time, and probably second, third season he's gonna be a pro at it, and really mastering those emotions and feelings. But man, great ride. It was a terrible bummer what happened with him in the whoops there, right? Literally a corner to go. That sucks. I mean, it was like I thought he was gonna save it.
Well, because it was weird
because
he
rode the front wheel for like 40 feet.
It was weird. He
Oh,
started
that
to
was
skim and then tried to jump, and then it did not go very well.
You know that he was just holding that bike wide
Oh my
open.
god.
That thing was just revved out. You know
my
it.
god.
Man, that whoop section was gnarly though. It really broke down more than I think anybody expected, and I really think people thought they were going to be able to skim them all night long, and obviously that wasn't the case.
Dude, did you guys see how the first whoop section, how much he caught Dylan?
Did you
Like
see
how
him ride the
fast
back
he-
whl like halfway through that
Yeah,
fucking whoop
he
section?
just-
Yeah, that
Dude,
was
that
insane.
was crazy.
That was like a 2014 Tomac through Daytona. Just insane. So yeah,
Intentional.
Talking about the whoops right there and how they break down, just kind of thinking about it and the kind of the physics of it, it must be just the way they pack it and the type of dirt they're using to be able to withstand, 80, 100 riders, whatever it is, going through an entire night without
Right.
really giving them too much maintenance and stuff. It must be just the way they pack it, because they were, like you said, really starting to deteriorate. And Ken Roxon's usually one of those that could, once they start deteriorating, he like really rides the edges of the whoops.
Yeah.
He's one of the few that really makes that work. And I was noticing that that really wasn't even working for him. So it worked for other people, but man, those were just bad whoops. I don't know if they maybe should have maintenance them more or what, but there was a couple nasty crashes in those
Yeah.
whoops all night.
Amart, Jet Lawrence, yeah, it bit a few guys
Faulkner.
pretty good. Faulkner, obviously, but yeah, man, gotta give Jet Lawrence big props. He's got a very bright future in this class, and I think he's going to succeed in America. He's showing a lot of speed and a lot of bike control. And when I say bike control, just the last 2 laps, yeah, it was probably the sketchiest 2 laps I've watched all year long. But dude, most people would have looped out on that Dragon's back like 14 times if they were in his position. I don't know how he saved a lot of that stuff, but unfortunately the whoops finally bit him at the last lap. Yeah, big props to him, and I can't wait to see what outdoors in 2021 brings, because this kid's got a very bright future. So let's move on from him though. We got a lot of shit to fit in this show.
Yeah, we do.
Let's talk about Justin Cooper. This guy's got a 12-point lead over Ferrandis already. He's been very consistent all year long. Really had a very good championship ride this weekend, getting on the podium once again. So Weaver, let me hear some of your opinions on Justin Cooper and your thoughts on the championship so far.
So far with Cooper that I've noticed, I really think Des Nations changed him. I might have mentioned that on the last show or maybe the show before, but I really think that just like triggered a switch with him, and he is so much more manageable, not that kind of like wild crazy like that time he like tried to throw Chase Sexton into the stands.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of that is kind of mellowed, and everyone always looks at the big picture, right? But they say they look at the big picture. But Cooper's the only one so far in this class is showing that he's here for the entire season and to put in consistent results. So nothing flashy by Cooper. Cooper was way faster last week in St. Louis as far as like raw speed. But championship ride, what he did was he put himself in the contention of snagging a podium finish from other people's mishaps.
Absolutely.
So that was, they say, okay, you got lucky, whatever. But he put himself in the position to take advantage of what happened to the other people. So great job by Cooper. Nothing that's been like crazy flashy. I mean, he rode great at Anaheim 1 and kind of rode away with it, but nothing super flashy with Cooper. And I really think that is what he wants. I don't think he wants to be crazy flashy, be on the highlight reel for cartwheeling his bike down the straightaway. He wants to go put in motos. You know, he doesn't
He
get all
just does what
crazy
he
with the
has to do.
scrubs and whips and more of a rider, kind of like a Dungey, as far as I'm not going to go and be the most flashy guy out here throwing the biggest scrubs and whips and fastest lap times, but he's going to be there for the whole moto. So Cooper, this is his championship to win. I really feel like that, even though he doesn't have that 1W on there. This is, or I should say, it's Cooper's championship to lose.
Absolutely. Damon, this guy's ridden very efficiently so far this year. He's been very smooth on the bike. He's been, conservative, but at the same time, he's been fast. So what are your thoughts on the 32 moving forward?
I think he's just going to keep doing what he's been. He put himself in a good position this weekend. I mean, he straight up did full damage control. He was still fast in practice, top 4, nothing flashy in his heat race. He just got a bad start, and I think right away he even said that he was just not comfortable and didn't gel with the track very well, and we saw it on Saturday. A lot of guys didn't. It was just very technical. The whoops, like Jacob already said, broke down pretty gnarly, and it was a track you really couldn't charge on, especially late in the heats, the LCQ or the main. And he started not too far back, started about 6th and hovered there till pretty much right past halfway when the Craig and Ferrandis thing happened, and then when Jett ended up going down, and then Forkner as well. So he went from 5th to 2nd just based on capitalizing on everybody's mistakes. And hey, you gotta be there. And on your worst weekends, when you're not feeling comfortable, the bike's not good, or you're sick, and you're able to pull off a 2nd place, that's what's going to win you championships. And at A1, I feel like he proved, or wanted to prove to Dylan, that he was the guy, and I think he was a lot more flashy at round 1. And last weekend, I feel he was on the same level as A1. He just got a bad start, and then obviously this past weekend, with him not feeling comfortable, to still be able to pull off a 2nd place is just incredibly impressive. And I 100% agree with what you guys have already said, that it's his championship to lose. He's got a 12-point lead on Dylan, and Dylan's going to have to go full crazy psycho like he did this past weekend to get into the lead and win, to be able to make up points on Justin. Because in my opinion, with how fast and inconsistent Forkner is, Justin's the 2nd fastest. There's, the 2nd best guy in the class, and Dylan's going to have to watch him every main and know where he's at to be able to make up points and ultimately win this title. So impressive for Justin. And I feel like he's just going to keep carrying this forward with, like Jacob said again, not being the flashiest guy, but just being there, good starts, being up front and collecting podiums. And then, by the time it hits Salt Lake, if it keeps going this way, then he'll have a number 1 plate, a $500,000 check, and that'll be that.
For sure. And even if sorry, Weaver, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say a total side note. I wanted to ask your guys' opinions. Am I the only one that thought this track blew ass? Like it was just a total recipe for disaster. Not just the whoops, but that Dragon's Back was like Death Lane going into the finish. I mean, I don't know. Did you see you guys?
Here's
How many people are about endoing off that? The track sucked.
That track was a very challenging track. Everything was steep. It's kind of been a trend so far in these first 3 rounds that, the rhythms are more steep. The whoops haven't been as big as they were this past weekend, but the tracks have been a little different this year, just the way they're building them. Like there's obstacles like right out of a corner. Like I feel like last year they had a little bit more of a run, to get a big triple in into a rhythm section or something. But I feel like now all the rhythms are a lot closer to the berm. So you really got to accelerate through the corner to be able to, hit the bigger lines or whatever. So I thought it was a good racetrack, but I think it was miserable for the guys to ride for sure. But at the same time, the tracks have kind of been this way, I feel like, so far this year, outside of the size of the whoops. But I kind of liked it, to be honest. I thought it created pretty good separation, and it showed who can ride a rough track and, who can, manage a race just, because of how gnarly the track is. Emma, what do you think?
This has been the first time in a long time that I can remember actually paying attention to the tracks, that they're finally building the tracks to match how good the bikes are. Last year, I think there was a lot of complaints to Feld and the track workers that the tracks were too easy, and the only time it would separate guys is when they finally broke down. And at least this year, they're building, like Corbin said, they're building obstacles right out of corners that, if you're good enough, that, yeah, the bike can do it, but you have to have bike skills to get over it. And the whoops are really gnarly. So I feel like the tracks are still breaking down gnarly. And I feel like, yeah, it's mean, what this is dangerous, but I feel like all the guys that just send it, they're gonna get a reality check, because you have to pay attention to how the track breaks down and the obstacles, and really pay attention to your bike setup. So I think all 3 tracks have been great. They've all been a little bit different, and they haven't been easy per se, and they've all separated even the top guys. So I mean, as a fan, it's made it really exciting. As a rider and racer, I mean, yeah, the tracks are dangerous, but what's been kind of great, or maybe not funny, is that all the top guys, none of them have complained about the tracks so far. They've all said tracks are great. Yeah, they're gnarly and sketchy, but that's kind of how they want it to be able to separate, all of them, mid-moto or near the end of the races. So that's kind of my take on it. That, yeah, they're gnarly, but I think that the guys appreciate it more, because you have to actually ride and pay attention and be technical out there.
Yeah, and not to get off on a complete tangent, but I just feel like they're less one line as they have been in years past. I feel like last year we saw a lot of complaints about one line tracks and not having a lot of passing spots. But I feel like, with how these tracks have broken down so far this year, even just going through a whoop section, it can be considered a passing area just because they're so gnarly. You just never know what's going to happen. And before the first set of whoops this weekend, there was, 4 to 6 ruts in that corner. And we saw Tomac, around the far outside rut. And that's how, he gained some momentum on Kenny. So I kind of like how the tracks have been so far. I don't mind watching a beat up track like that. It's more exciting, and B, it creates a little more separation. But yeah, Weaver, what are your thoughts on it though?
Yeah, my last thing, I did say the track sucked. The reason I said that, it wasn't the layout. The layout looked sick. It looked great on paper. It's hard for these guys to predict the way it's going to break down, though, especially when you're talking about some of these open stadiums and the different atmospheric conditions. It's really hard to predict. I mean, it sounds silly, but it goes all the way back from how much moisture's in the air. Is it cloudy? Is it sunny? Is that going to dry the track out? Blah, blah. So, I mean, the layout was cool, but I don't know. Separators are great. I really think a lot of the separators in general, besides the obstacles, are obviously the dirt and the way the track's going to break down as far as different ruts and the going all the way to the jump faces. Like, you're going to see that real bad in Seattle. Seattle's a great one to watch along with Indianapolis. But I don't know. I just felt like that the track wasn't technically made that well. I don't know. Like, I just keep thinking about that Dragon's Back before the finish. And if you watch it, the last 2 whoops, so for those that may not pay this close of attention, to get clean off a Dragon's Back, your front tire almost has to touch that top loop. If your front tire doesn't touch that top loop and your back tire does, you're going to be endoing off that. So I think it was either the spacing between the couple whoops on the Dragon's Back, or that second to last whoop was a little bit bigger. And to me, great, having separators and stuff. But looking at it, I think that that's something that is an unnecessary danger to the riders.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
When the top 5 are just holding it pegged because they're like endoing off that. Separators are great, man, but you don't have to make a track, deathly sketchy for it to be a separator. And that's just kind of the point I was getting at. But other than that, the layout was great. It made great for fans watching, stuff like that. And I mean, I guess if the guys aren't complaining about it, that's fine. But I could tell you what, 10th and down. So, from 10th to 20th place, or the guys that are just fighting to make the night show, I guarantee you they're like, fuck this place, man.
For sure.
But that's all I got on it.
Yeah, definitely been a lot of challenging tracks so far, and I'm kind of curious to see how Arizona shapes up. It's usually pretty hard dirt, and the whoops usually hold up pretty good there. So I guess we'll see this weekend. But let's talk about the Tasmanian Devil. We've made this his official nickname. Austin Fortner just basically pissed away another title. You guys know our general opinion on him. Just from our last couple shows. But yeah, man, if everyone was getting bit in the whoops, but at the same time, this guy's, his attitude makes you think that, he thinks he's better than everybody. And if he's better than everybody, then he shouldn't be making the same mistakes as everybody. This kid is not going to win a title if he continues doing this shit. We've said this week in and week out. I don't want to waste too much time on it because it's a fucking broken record. But everyone that slobs on his knob for how gnarly he is, slob on his knob, go to his house while he's laying on the couch and slob on his knob, because that's pretty much all you're going to get out of him year after year. I'm done. Move on. Damon, go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, rapid fire for me. Just straight up, Tasmanian Devil came out. He had 5 minutes to go. He was going to finish third. There was no reason to try and push it to get Ferrandis. He was going to get you, period. I get trying to pace him, but there was no point. 5 minutes left in the main. You got third place sewed up. I don't understand it. Taz is going to Taz. That's all I got to say. He wasn't gonna get Dylan or Jet, and that's all I got. He's fourth in points, 22 out, championship's over. Let's throw it to Weebs and then move on. I'm fine with it. I don't really care. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
All right. Well, I won't go too far either. It's hard to say. I thought Forkner changed, and changed as far as the sense of kind of having that racecraft management a little bit more.
Or maturity.
Yeah, more maturity, realizing that he doesn't have to be the fastest one in practice and stuff like that. But I don't know. Unfortunate thing. I think his ass end kind of caught a little bit of a high point. I'm totally blanking. Cupped out, like a cupped out whoop right there or something that kind of James Stewart 2015 threw him off. Yeah. A little bit of a buckaroo.
Yeah, he launched, I will say.
Yeah, he turned out pretty bad. As far as may people not really be a huge fan of him, or seems like you're either a huge Forkner fan or you hate him. But for the general purpose of a championship, it's just fun to see like 3 or 4 people go at it rather than just one person running away with only one person that might be able to get lucky to take it. Time after time we see that happen. And one person's, this many points up. Only way it will be mixed up is if that person crashed, bike problem, whatever. But so I just like to see a better battle for a championship rather than just now it's just Cooper and Friend is trying to play catch up. So for the sake of watching it and being a viewer, it's more fun, if he would have kept it on 2 wheels and been healthy. So disappointing in that aspect, but as Corbin said, he's Forkner. So that's all I got.
All right, let's move on. God, we bash on this kid a lot.
Yeah. Hey, we got to have opinions. It makes our show different. That's how we feel.
I'm not going to sit here. I'm sorry. I'm not going to buy into, fuck it. I'm not even going to talk about it. Let's talk about Brandon Hartranft.
Oh, man, I was looking forward to hearing that.
No, I can't waste my breath on it anymore.
All right.
I don't want to drive it any further into the ground. Well, let's talk about Brandon Hartranft. He just scored his second career podium, second in a row. He's just really been in a good spot to capitalize. As Ricky would say, he's in a perfect position. No, but he's really been able to capitalize the last 2 weekends on other people's mistakes, just like Justin Cooper has. And I think he's shown a lot of maturity. He's been, pretty consistently riding around the top 5. And, he's gotten a couple lucky breaks, but at the same time, we've said this a million times in the last few weeks, you got to be there to capitalize and you got to be there to, win championships. And, this guy he's 14 points back. And if you told me last year, that in 2020 he was going to be 14 points off
2 podiums
Justin
in 3
Cooper.
rounds.
Yeah, 2 podiums in 3 rounds. I would have said you're high as fuck, but big props to him once again. And Damon, what's your thoughts on the big 3-0?
Been great. The best part for me is to watch him on the podium and just be all smiles is awesome.
Yeah, it's
and
awesome.
Honestly,
that was the only point I was going to make was the podium interview.
And I wanted to point this out last week, and I didn't realize. So on an earlier interview I listened to, Troy Lee has stated multiple times to his riders that if they get a podium or a win, he doesn't want his riders to mention or thank his team. It's actually in the policy of the team. Really? So it's not really on Brandon to be super excited these last 2 weekends. Yeah, Troy Lee has said to Cole Seeley, all his guys in the past, yeah, if you do well, I don't want you to think that. Rattle off, tell the truth, like how the track was, how you actually really felt, what the team changed throughout the day. So Brandon actually didn't forget to thank the team. That's actually what Troy Lee wants. He doesn't want him to thank the below Troy. He wants him to tell the truth, how the track was, how you felt, if you ate something bad throughout the day, if you're feeling like shit. So, but no, back to my point that, yeah, he's been capitalizing on everybody else's mistakes and been great. 14 points out, 2 podiums in a row. And hopefully he keeps the train rolling. I think his confidence is building every week, and he's finally building, like he said on the podium, that belongs there. So great kid. He works super hard. I'm super pumped to see him on the podium every weekend, and hopefully he just keeps rattling these things off as the weeks go by.
Dreamweaver, what do you got?
Only thing I got that wasn't already said was I was expecting big things from him, more so watching him at Red Bull Straight Rhythm, putting on an absolute show. So I thought that there was going to be a little something more from him. Other than that, man, keep on rocking it. He's doing awesome, and it's really cool to see someone that, made their way up the rankings. I've said it in past shows, but not a common thing in motocross to go ahead and be able to work your way up like, a football player would or a basketball player. It's kind of, you make it or you don't. So it's cool to see one of the few climb the ladder. But other than that, man, Brandon, keep on ripping, man. It's fun to watch you.
For sure. And, Troy Lee's got to feel really good about this guy. Derek Drake had a rough weekend, and I'm not really sure what happened to him. Nobody ever really talked about it, but he's got to be pumped on the chance he took it with Heart Ramped. I mean, we've never seen the kid on a factory bike until this year, and to take a chance on somebody like him, somebody that's a little more low profile than most guys, he's got to be pumped. And, obviously coming into the year, he knew that they were pretty much going to be starting over. They pretty much got rid of everybody they had last year. Now they got a bunch of rookies, and Heart Ramped is the veteran, and that doesn't even sound right to say that because he's so young, but he's got to be pretty psyched with what's going on so far with Heart Ramped season, and the ceiling's pretty high for the rookies as well. So I look for big things out of that entire team. So with that said, let's move on to Michael Mosiman. Dude, he was so silently good on Saturday. I didn't even realize he got fourth. Him and Big Al had a pretty rough start to the night, but pretty good salvage night, getting a fourth. Obviously the ceiling's very high for this guy, and I didn't even realize he got fourth. And another guy that, capitalized on some mistakes of some other riders. So Weaver, what's your thoughts on Mosiman this season so far and his fourth place weekend?
The dude absolutely shreds, and I feel like no one really gives him enough credit for how fast he is. So other than that, man, he showed amazing rides and outdoors, and that's when I really started paying attention to him, stuff like that. And a little bit last year in Supercross too, but man, this guy's just like missing like half of a piece of puzzle to be like consistent podiums, and I think he could even win it too. I seriously wouldn't be surprised if at least one race this year he came away with a win. I mean, the dude just shreds, and I don't know if it's just like little bobbles or bad starts or something, but if you watch, he has the pace that any of these guys does. And then it was fourth. Was that his best finish this year? I believe so.
He tied
yes.
it. He tied A1.
Yeah.
Got fourth as well.
I don't know what you guys think, but I'm thinking this dude could win. I seriously think Michael Mosiman is better than just a fourth, and that's stupid to say, better than a fourth, because that's amazing. But I tell you what, man, Mosiman has the speed that anyone in this class does. He's, like I said, missing half a piece of a puzzle. But what do you got, Damon?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it sucks last weekend that he got into it with Ferrandis and went down really hard off the start, and he was not actually able to finish. Man, like you said, he's just missing that little bit. I mean, he started second in the heat and then fell, and then they had to go to the LCQ. So him and Big Al went together. And then with all the chaos that happens, I actually had to look at the results an hour ago to realize he even got fourth. I mean, he was so silently good. But man, it's funny that we want to poo-poo on Brandon, but I think him and Mosiman could be switched in the points. Like, I feel like Brandon's season that he's had is what Michael's season should be, like 2/3.
I agree.
Just be silently up there. So, but I agree. I mean, his speed is unreal, and I definitely believe that he can win one of these things. He just has to get a start, and I think what Brandon's doing this year is what Michael did last year, to like just kind of believe that he belongs up there. So I think he knows he belongs up there. He gets a start and kind of maybe does what Jet did. I think he could potentially run away with one of these things. So he's just got to get a start and have, go into the weekend with all the pieces to the puzzle, not have that one piece missing. And I think I'm going to say Glendale this weekend. I could see him being on the podium. No doubt.
I could agree. And his 41 points and being in 8th place in the standings does not show how well he's ridden all year long. He's been pretty fast, and he's kind of had a rough go with his heat races. He's been in a couple LCQs now, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, he's definitely got a very high ceiling. He definitely has the potential to run up front, and I think outdoors he'll be more of a legitimate podium threat. But I do think he has the potential to be on the podium and maybe win one of these things, just like you guys said. So I could definitely agree, and I agree with what you said, Damon. Coming into the season, I figured, he would have the season Hartranft is having as well. I figured he would have had at least one podium by now, but got a few more races left to go, so he's got some time to improve and really get comfortable.
We're 3 rounds in, so we still have some time. Right. So don't poo-poo on him yet. I think he's the best is to come.
No, sure. I'm definitely not trying to shit on him, but that's just what I would have predicted coming into the season.
100%.
So we'll see. His point standings and his results don't quite show how well he's ridden. I mean, he's got a couple fourths, but the DNF kind of hurt him in the point standings. But big high ceiling for him for sure. He's got a lot of potential. Let's move on. This is going to lead us into the rest of our 250 talk, I believe. Ferrandis got it done. He did what he had to do to get to the front, obviously. Ended up winning by 21 seconds. He definitely had a win or die trying attitude, and he did what he had to do to win. And we talked last week that he's got to go out and win, and that's exactly what he did. Getting a lot of hate right now for some of the moves he made during the main event, and we'll get to that part of it in a second. But gotta say, he put on a charge. He laid the hammer down, and he did what he had to do to win, and that's that. So, Damon, what's your thoughts on his ride outside of the Craig incident?
Yeah, before we get into it, I 100% agree. We all picked him last week we all picked him to win, that he had to come out and prove that he's the champ, and if he wants to get it done, he's got to get starts, which of course he didn't get a start, but yeah, he was by far the fastest guy, and he moved people like how he thought he needed to get to the front, and he won the thing, and I feel like he's got the confidence rolling, and I definitely would say look out for the number 1 W in Glendale, because I think he's going to bring it. So he had a good night. He made up I think 3 points on Coop, and we'll see what he's got in Glendale.
Let's hear it.
Other than talking about the putting Craig into the parking lot,
yeah, we'll get to that in a minute.
that was really that was really what Ferrandis showed. He was blazing fast, really kind of left it hanging out there. I mean, even in the whoops, everywhere, corner speed and scrubbing jumps. And he was moving to the front one way or another. But other than that, we all said Ferrandis is going to be his weekend. And go ahead, start it off. Let's go about the talk. Go for it.
I know at first that I definitely thought before I get really into this, don't let this overshadow everything else that happened over the weekend, please. There's too many people that are taking this way too far, and it's a championship, and everyone says that this is the toughest sport in the world. And if you have a big enough problem to send death threats to Ferrandis and his family, then you got a fucking problem. If you want this to be the toughest sport in the world and you want to be able to brag about it, then you should probably quit bitching about it, because that's racing. Shit happens. Whether he was right or wrong, people make mistakes, and that's that. So there's no need to be. In my opinion, people are way too fucking stupid to be fans of this sport. Sometimes they take shit way too far. What happens on the tracks needs to stay on the track. And if you're a true fan of the sport, then that needs to be your attitude. I don't agree with, I know Damon agrees with me. I don't agree with all the extracurricular bullshit and fucking death bomb threats and everything else. So, okay. after that, let's get into this fucking thing. Yeah, man. My thoughts initially, I was a little more pissed off initially than I am now about the move that he put on Craig. I do think he came in, and I think he expected Craig to see him sooner than he did, and that obviously wasn't the case. It was kind of a weird. It was a little sharper than a 90, so it was kind of a weird corner. It's kind of hard to talk about, but my opinion on it initially was that, he came in so hot. I'm not really sure what he was expecting, and I'm not really sure where he was expecting to go, because he literally took like a 45-degree angle towards the mechanics area. So I'm not really sure what else he was expecting. I'm not sure how he could have expected to ride out of that. But with that said, he put it in there, that's for sure. And I know the stadium booed him, and he probably lost quite a bit of fans about it, but he did what he thought he had to do.
That was raw. He put it in there, no lube.
He just shoved it right in there.
Well, yeah. So kind of based off of what Corbin was saying, a lot of people don't realize that stuff happens so fast, especially when you're going that fast, that it's not like he sat down at a desk and calculated the trajectory of how he's going to take this turn. And
right.
I mean, he came off the finish line. He had probably a quarter of a second to, am I going to put this in there? Or am I going to go behind him on the berm? So whether he thought, one, Craig was going to take the corner a little slower, and two, Craig was going to see him. Three, he probably didn't mean to come out that wide. He just didn't realize that, because no one was taking that line. That was probably the first time he ever took the inside like that. So
right.
whether the track was a little bit slicker and it kind of pushed him out more, I mean, you could sit here and analyze this as many ways as you want, but in hindsight, obviously he did what he had to do, blah, blah, blah. But other than that, he had when I say a millisecond to make this decision, he had a millisecond to come off, land off the finish, and the corner was right there. It wasn't, like I said, whether he was planning in his head, okay, I could get him after the finish, but I really don't think it was that, well thought of. I think he just, okay, I'm closer than I thought, I'm going to get him here, and other than that, he totally, on the other side of things, he totally smoked Craig. I mean, he hit him so fucking hard. Craig launched into the goddamn parking lot. That was, I'm not saying he meant to do that, but he hit him hard as fuck. When I saw that, when I saw that, I was like, that was bad. That was bad. So, like, it's not, I don't agree with any of like the crazy things people are saying and stuff like that, but he smoked him, man. There's no way to get around it. He straight up hit him hard.
Damon, go for it.
You ready?
Yes.
Okay. So I just want to say, one, thank you both for just breaking it down like intellectual people. I really appreciate that. Two, I'm going to go off what Corbin said. I'm just going to say, fuck all of you just vital people that just don't understand what Dylan probably feels. And he knows he messed up, and just all the things that people are sending to Villeman and his wife and to Dylan. Like, he knows he messed up. He publicly apologized. I'm sure he feels very, very bad for what he did. And just most of the death threats and the people saying, Frenchie fuck and he needs to go back home. You people are just morons. You just don't get it. And I would say most of you people in that situation that have probably never ridden a dirt bike on a very competitive level, even like the three of us talking, I feel like most of the vital people that we're like 95%, just we've been in those situations more than them. So I just don't think people can relate. And you can't, it just pisses me off to give your opinion on something that you don't fully understand. And you can't put your feet into that person's shoes. So that's that. But to really break it down, I would say I get Christian's side. In his head, he could have made this pass 3 seconds later in that option section. He had I actually timed it. He had 7 minutes and 45 seconds left on the clock when they slammed. So he had that much time left to get Christian and to catch Jet. And also in Christian's head, Dylan was the fastest guy. He came out of nowhere, and really in Christian's head too, he didn't provoke Dylan, like, for just how how hard he hit him, you know, Christian's probably thinking, dude, what did I do to you? You know what I'm saying? Like, just for how hard because they exploded. I mean, that was vicious. So, but from Dylan's side, you know, you get a bad start like he did. All your competitors are behind you. You're trying to make up all these points, you know, to get back into the title hunt. You want to prove that you're the champ. You got that 1 W on your bike for a reason. And, you know, so you're in that frantic race mode, like, oh, I got to go, and get to the front. So that's kind of from Dylan's side as well. Also, that I believe was a bad judgment call on Craig's part. When you know a competitor is that close, should never have went that far outside. There were a lot of guys that were hitting that thing and like going to the inside. So it was, you know, kind of a last minute call too. I feel like it was kind of Craig's bad call to maybe go outside when you know Dylan's that close and you know guys are passing in that section. Also,
but you mean just real quick, I want you to keep talking after this, but you mean the inside of the berm, or are you saying like people were actually hugging the tough block inside?
Some were scrubbing it and landing somewhat short on the finish and kind of hugging the tough block.
Yeah, like for Christian to not like go all the way outside like that to rail the outside berm. A lot of guys in the main were scrubbing from where Dylan did and like not carrying as much speed as he did to make that pass, but to at least go to the inside and like kind of drift the rear end to, you know, hit the like land far on that left side and like drift to that inside and like drift out to like kind of hit that mechanics area tough block and then sweep back in for that inside outside option.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure I knew what you were talking about. Okay. Sorry.
No, you're good. And also in the press conference and in a few interviews Dylan said after, he said that he landed and he thought Christian would have hurt him, which I understand the panic driving part, but on Christian's side as well, you're in a stadium with that many loud people. I mean, it's going to be kind of hard to hear a panic rev guy behind you. I mean, yeah, I get you can hear. So I'm just trying to play a little bit of devil's advocate there that, you know, Dylan thought he panic revved enough that Christian can hear him, but also on Christian's side that, you know, you might not be able to hear your guy because your bike's revving or the crowd or whatever. So, and overall, there was no malicious intent there. Dylan did not scrub that jump and mean to just totally kill Christian. No. There was no malicious intent whatsoever. In hindsight, for me, 100%, that was a bad call. That Dylan should not have, you know, I feel that he was just full, wanting to get to the front, championships, you know, kind of slipping through his grasp. He got a bad start. And I feel like he made a bad call. He should not have even tried to make the pass there. He could have literally made it right past that in that inside outside option. He caught Christian so fast. He was going to get around him anyways. So, and then also, like I said already, he apologized. He feels bad. I'm really glad that the AMA failed to not dock him points. I heard that was kind of the rumor going around. That would have been a totally bullshit call. So that's my take. I tried to come from both sides that, like I said, it was a bad call. There was no malicious intent on his side. It's done and dusted. It was a racing incident. We've seen way worse with Tickle, Alessi, Pike, Freeze. So it's done and dusted. That's my whole intentions on it.
I wish we were doing the podcast when Freeze hit,
oh my god!
Oh god, that would have been great.
Oh, I wish we were doing the podcast.
Dude, I saw a meme.
Man.
I saw a meme today, and it was like it was a picture of Pike just wailing on Freezy's head, and it was like he's like where there. It was like where's this hero when we need him?
Yeah, right.
I can definitely see a lot of both sides of that situation. I think Dylan was in the wrong. It wasn't a smart move whatsoever, if you ask me. Generally speaking, if you go down while making a hard pass, you're probably wrong. And you also look a little more stupid when you do that. So my thoughts was he could have literally done the same line and not accelerated as early. Because when he hit him, that was the worst point of the corner he could have possibly hit him. Right. It was right when Craig was planted and starting to accelerate out of the corner. And it created a huge collision as we saw. And
well, yeah, that weight starts to come off the front end when he's accelerating like that. So there's not, I mean, the center of gravity was kind of pushed back and then he hit him. And that's why it was, as Corbin's saying, so epic. Like as far as the tumble.
At a certain point, there was that outside berm they had built up. And I believe where Dylan hit him, they hit together, and then instead of Christian going left, he hit that bank. So the only way he could go was realistically forward, and that's why it just looked so absolutely vicious because Christian couldn't go left. Like there was that big ass berm there, so there was really nowhere for him to go. So that's why it just looked like they literally got in a fucking car accident because he had nowhere to go.
Man, I'll tell you, he launched across the
Dude.
TV screen.
Dude, that was
dude.
And I saw when he picked his bike up. I mean, I'm sure you guys both could see too before he even got on. I'm like, he can't even. Well, one, I'm glad he's okay, and two, his bars are bent so bad he can't. There's nothing he could even do. So I'm glad he pulled it in and didn't do something stupid like get lapped and then try to kill him. Which
Right.
I don't think Christian would have done that, but maybe another rookie guy not thinking in his right mind would have.
Right. And we've seen on social media he's pretty level-headed about the whole situation. Obviously the last couple of weekends he could and should have had 2 podiums and he would have been right there and second or third in the points. So I know he's frustrated, but at the same time it's cool to see him level-headed about the whole situation and ready to move on from it, because I know he doesn't want all that drama. And I know he doesn't agree with all the bullshit that people are sending Ferrandis and his wife. So it's cool to see that. He's a pretty good role model for the sport. I think he's a veteran, and good to see him holding his head high and ready to move on from it. But my bottom line is, and we can move on from here, is Ferrandis could have hit that same line and maybe not accelerated as hard and just ran him high in the next corner instead of meeting him at the exit of the 90 after the finish. Just run him high in the next corner. Do your on-off and run him high. Do your little on-off option section and just run away, because he knew he was going entirely way faster than Craig was. And
that's what I was wanting to say, based right off of what you just said, Corbin, was a part of the element of surprise that kind of happened throughout the whole deal was that it's not like he was behind Craig for like 5 laps and like he knew he was there and all right, time for Ferrandis so quick. I mean, he was catching Craig like his bike was still on the stand. You know what I mean? So that was another element of surprise too, because even maybe he heard him, but there's no way in hell he probably thought he was that close that quick.
Right.
Correct.
So actually a little funny backstory is when I was I was in A practice in Colorado, and I tipped over a quarter, and Craig hit my bike and fell. And he just got up and he was screaming at me. He was so
who
mad.
the fuck is this pile of shit?
It was this dickhead on a Yamaha 912 with black pot. He was, get the he was angry at me. I just thought I'd throw that in there as
That's funny.
about him.
Hey, I will say though, I'm glad we are. It seems like we're all on the same page. It was a bad call. He had no malicious intent. It was really brutal though, and I'm glad we all intellectually broke it down, which was super nice to see. Because this weekend I was very frustrated, and it was very hard for me not to ruin some people's lives on all platforms of social media. But I will say, if it comes to a super close championship race with Cooper and Ferrandis isn't expecting Craig to give him one back. If he does, Yamaha and Dylan cannot bitch about it, because
he owes him one for sure.
If he's not expecting one, and if Christian gives it, that's fine. I mean, I know we're trying to stay level-headed, and that makes me happy, and we all need to just move on. But hey, if it comes down to Vegas and they're battling for the title and Craig gives him one,
you don't forget about that stuff.
No, there's a difference. Yeah. There's a difference between saying, hey, like, I'm cool with it, let's move on to next weekend on social media, and being on the track behind the guy who just absolutely fucking killed you.
Yep.
If I'm behind Ferrandis this weekend, I am fucking killing him.
That's why I just hope Dylan plays it cool, that if something like that happens, he just keeps it quiet and okay, I had that coming. I did something stupid, and it's gonna come.
I would say really quick too. I don't know if you guys watched Craig's A2 video, but
no, I haven't.
I did not.
He says he's level-headed, which I mean, I think he is. I mean, I believe him, but at the end of the vlog, when all the stuff happened, he said, "I'm so happy that Supercross, there's only 7 days in between each race."
Oh shit.
I mean, he's not going to maliciously seek him out, but yeah, if he's in front of him in a heat or behind him in the main, I mean, if Dylan leaves the door open, you best believe, because Craig, I'm sure you guys saw the Big Al video this week. Christian can get it done. So.
For sure. He knows how to run it in there. So I'm just going to run through a couple other good rides from the weekend in the 250 class, because we gotta move on. Yep. Big Al salvaged a good night. He went to the LCQ and ended up 5th. So good ride for him. Also, dude, this guy's been silently good as well. Luke Clout got a 6th place this weekend. I believe that's his best finish of the year so far. This guy's riding very good. He's showing that he can contend for top 5s in America. So it's cool to see. I feel like there's a lot of Australians that made their way over here this season. So it's cool to see him succeeding. I know he had a killer season down under this year and just came up short of the title behind Justin Brayton. So cool to see him having some early success in his American career. So yeah, let me ask you guys a few questions. Let's just make these quick. I'm gonna start with Damon. We'll just go every other. So Damon, does Dylan Ferrandis go on a run from this point on?
Absolutely. He's gonna be at worst a 2nd place guy, but I feel like this weekend in Glendale he's going back to back, stamping it.
Okay. Weaver, let me ask you this next one. Cooper remain this consistent, or are we going to see, one out of form ride for him?
If it is, it's because either a crash or a mechanical failure. But other than that, I feel like there's such separators in this 250 class that he could even get a 20th place start and still come back and crawl in the top 5. So I think there's going to be consistency from Cooper all year, and that's what I'm calling.
Gotcha. Damon, who's the next guy? Who's the next guy to sneak in a podium?
Moseman.
Moseman? Okay.
Yep.
Weaver, does Craig get payback?
Dude, I could totally see Craig like 5 years down the road, like getting some payback.
In the
I don't
450
know.
class?
I feel like it's gonna be too obvious right now. If anything, he might like run him high or something. But I think you might see some Tyler Bowers on-off podium or totally T-bone web type action in sometime within the next couple of years. So yeah. Craig will get something back. He's a good enough rider where he could put his bike where he wants.
Sure, and I'm going to go ahead and answer this last one, but Damon or whoever else can as well. Does Fortner respond? Yes and no. I think he comes out and does just about the same thing he did this weekend. I think his back's so far against the wall now. I think he's just going to start riding over his head like he usually does. So I expect to see a lot of speed out of him this weekend, but I can expect a couple crashes as well. So Damon, give me your answer.
I mean, we could pretty much move on. I'm just going to completely copy your answer.
Okay. All right. Well, that wraps up the 250 class. So let's move on to the 450 class. But before that, I forgot to tell everybody, I just uploaded our last episode to YouTube. I'm going to start trying to do that every week. So if you're more of a YouTube guy and we don't have video yet, but the audio is posted. If you're more of a YouTube guy and that's just easier for you, go to Wide Open MX Show on YouTube and you'll be able to find our podcast there. Eventually, I'll put all of our old episodes up as well, most likely. But for now, I'm just going to update it week to week. So just wanted to throw that in there before we move on. Let's talk about the 450 class. Some quick takeaways. Let's just summarize these and move on with it. Tomac's back. Had a fantastic ride. I believe he could have won this race by 20 seconds if he got a better start. But nonetheless, had a fantastic weekend, put on a pretty good charge, made some good passes, and he's back to his usual self. So, Damon, what's your thoughts so far or from this past weekend on the ET3 ride?
Well, like we all predicted last week, which I will say, boys, we predicted Ferrandis and Tomac to win, so we don't look like total morons. But
not completely.
But yeah, the Shark's back. He started 10th and just laid it down, man. He was aggressive and attacking the track like the Shark knows how. And he was into second by the 5th lap, into the lead by the 8th, and just cruised that puppy to the end. I mean, he looked on point all day. And I know he looked a little bit off maybe in the heat race, but brought it when it counted. His starts are still absolutely complete dog shit. So hopefully him and his dad or whoever he's working with can get that figured out. And yeah, be scared if you're everybody else. He's 3rd in points, 5 points out. It's on now.
For sure, he's definitely out of the points lead, obviously, and he's definitely struggled. I feel like the first couple rounds, but at the same time, Tomac is still Tomac, and he's still got the ability to just start rattling off race wins. So it's definitely curious to see what he can string together. he can start getting a little bit better of a start, if he's been outside the top 10 on most of his starts this year. So even if he starts inside the top 8 to 10, that would significantly help him in his finished result. So
his average start is 11.0.
I know. So definitely not a good start for the 3 machine, but put it on top of the box this weekend on a rough track. And just like we said, we called it, and we don't look like complete idiots. So Weaver, what's your thoughts on Tomac's ride over the weekend?
He was going so fast. There was nothing else to it. I was starting to wonder, which I'm kind of a fool for even thinking that. I wonder if he could still throw down that insane speed that we all know he could. And he did. I thought that Kenny was going to run away with it a little bit more than he did. So I thought it was going to take Tomac longer to catch him, but man, he caught Kenny like he wasn't even moving. And that's just the Tomac we know, because if Tomac wasn't there, Kenny would have went, and won another one. Or if Tomac was farther back, or whenever he's not Tomac, Kenny would have won again. So I'll just go ahead and talk about Kenny and Tomac both, just to get it rolling, since we talked about the 250 so much. But yeah, total shark ride right there. He was going so much faster. I think at one time he was like a second and a half a lap faster than Kenny. So I knew it was coming quick, and it was a bummer to see that Kenny couldn't hold him off just a little bit longer. But other than that, man, it's so entertaining to watch him ride like that. I mean, he was in the heat race. He had a couple times where his ASM was really kicking in the whoops, so they must have went ahead and dialed that in, changed his suspension or whatever they did to make that absorb a little bit better. And he was a killing machine. If he wanted to, he could have won that race by 20 seconds, hands down. But he learned so much from his other championships and mistakes that he knew that he could just ride a pace to win. And if Kenny would have closed up any more than he did, then he could have pulled back away. So other than that, going right to Kenny, if you actually watch like the first half a lap, Kenny didn't get that good of a start. He made like 3 passes within one rhythm section.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It was actually insane. Then he took that inside right before the whoops and totally did damage control within that first half a lap, which is what he's so remarkable as. So good to see Kenny still back to his normal self, in the sense of, still going for it and having that good speed. For some reason, usually when the whoops get that bad, Kenny shines more. So I was actually surprised to see, which looked like he was struggling in the whoops. Normally that's kind of Kenny's strong suit. But other than that, he damage control in the first half a lap to a lap, put on a good 5-second lead or 4.5, whatever it was. And then it was one of those days that Tomac was Tomac, and there was no stopping him, no matter who you were.
Absolutely. That kind of goes back to what James Stewart said. There's no reason Tomac shouldn't win every single weekend, because he's shown time and time again that he is the fastest guy, whenever he shows up to the race. I mean, Roczen definitely had a very good championship ride. Took the red plate away from Justin Barcia. But he's only 5 points ahead of Tomac, and this thing's definitely not over. It's going to get exciting. Definitely hope to see a lot of vintage Tomac Roczen battles. I think that'll be cool to see these guys battling for a 450 title, as well as whoever else throws a name in there. But yeah, definitely a good ride for Roczen as well. To back his win up with a second place is not too shabby. Webb was coming, but he stayed smart, stayed consistent, and he got the job done. So, Damon, what's your thoughts on Kenny's weekend?
Yeah, it was good. Actually, going back through the highlights, he hole shot and he was gone right away. He actually had no one in front of him going in out of the first turn. So, like I said, he rode good. He hole shot and did exactly what he needed to do. And I feel like his mechanic was telling him that Eli was coming, and there was really nothing he can do. I mean, we didn't know Kenny now after his injury that he's just going to ride within his comfort zone, and if the track gets super gnarly, he's just going to kind of keep it where he needs to be.
Right.
Which is smart. That's what you need to do. I mean, because he and all of his other main competitors like Ando and Osborne knowing when Tomac's off, that's when you have to capitalize. And when he's on, I'm sorry, no one's beating him straight
No.
up. There's not a single person out there. So with a night like that was on Saturday, Kenny's just gotta, if the three's coming, then he's gonna run it up the inside like he did and let him go, and maybe try to follow him for a lap if someone behind you is close to pull that gap out. But other than that, let him go, ride within your means, and just pretty much bring it home for a second or third place, whatever it is on that night, and lose a few points. But that those other weird Tomac rides are potentially coming, and that's when you have to capitalize on pulling points out. So, like I said, he did what he needed to do. He rode great. He's got the red plate. He's the points leader. He's got a 5-point lead, and I feel like the Kenny of old is back, and the old Eli's back, which he was back last week. He just had a horrendous start, even shittier than this week. So I will say, if Tomac can get those better starts and have some classic 3 and 94 battles, it's going to be a great fucking season. Everyone else is still healthy, so you throw a 16, a 21, a 9 in there. I absolutely cannot wait. So, but just to wrap up, Kenny, he did what he needed to do. He's got the red plate. I'm super pumped for him, and hopefully keep the podiums rolling, and maybe get another win in Glendale.
For sure. And I think at this point, everyone's rooting for Kenny. I think everyone's ready just to see him have a lot of success that he's, supposed to be having. And, I think everyone's expected it since he's been on Honda. I think everyone's considered him a title guy since that move. So to finally see him back where he belongs is awesome. It's refreshing. The sport's better with him in it. He's one of the biggest ambassadors of our sport right now. He's got one of the best personalities, and he's huge on social media. People love him. So it's cool to see this guy succeeding. He's such a good personality, and he's great for the sport, and definitely a big fan. So cool to see him with the red plate once again. And kind of excited to see what he's got the rest of the year. So with that, let's talk about the defending champion. Webb definitely had a very good rebound race this weekend. 12th last weekend, got a podium this weekend. Definitely a good turnaround. He looked very good early in the day. He was setting better lap times in qualifying than he has been. So I felt that was a pretty good improvement because he's been like 15th in qualifying for the last 3 weeks. So definitely cool to see that. He looked pretty spicy in the heat races as well. So Weaves, what's your thoughts on the old number one?
He looked amazing. I mean, he really did. He was kind of going back there for a little bit. I thought he was going to get shuffled back, maybe like a 4th, 5th type of ride, but he really recouped and showed that sickness kind of from the last week is over, and he's ready to dice with these guys again. So other than that, he looked really happy on the podium with getting that finish.
Yeah.
But I don't quite think it's going to be as quote unquote easy as it was for him last year. I feel like there's just too many healthy guys going really fast.
I agree.
Because I mean, you could even see in that he still had to have an amazing ride to get third. I mean, still had Osborne and Anderson right on him. So that's kind of the top 5 that we all predicted. But yeah, there's going to be a race that he holds shots and gets a 5-6 second lead, and he's going to win a race for sure this year, no doubt.
Absolutely. I definitely go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to finish on the last point I had was he has to be on it every single weekend if he wants to sniff that title again.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the 12th last week hurt him, but at the same time, it's a long season. 17 races is a lot more than people think, and I think there's still time to chip away at it. I think with the inconsistencies that we've seen with Tomac, year after year, I think there's definitely still a chance he could be up there. I'm more concerned about Kenny currently, but at the same time, there's a lot of contenders out there right now, and it's been pretty up and down, throughout the first 3 rounds. I feel like, the points are pretty tight, and I think the racing's been pretty exciting compared to the last few years, honestly. I think this year's going to go down as one of the best years, in the recent decade, if you ask me. So, Damon, what's your thoughts on Webb's weekend?
It was good. I know we predicted early, especially last week, that he'd be, lucky with the top 5 because, I think we got some bad info with how sick he really was. I think people were saying it was worse than what it was, which when he sat on the podium, he just had, strep and a cold kind of combined, and that's just what kind of ran him down. And actually, the air inside the stadium last week made it very hard for him to breathe and push. So actually, he was pretty pumped that A, he's kicked the sickness, and B, that it was, at Anaheim again with the open stadium. But no, he rode good. Started in the top 4. He passed into third quickly, and we'll get to Ando in a minute. But Ando got him for third, and then he got Ando late in the race, and then actually, kind of closed the gap on Kenny and Tomac, which I want to comment. I know a lot of people are pretty horned up on Webb's ride, which he rode amazing, but Kenny and Tomac were definitely checking to make sure where he was at. He caught them for sure and made it a close race at the end, but Tomac was eyeing Kenny and Webb, and then Roczen was doing the same. So no, he rode fantastic. He was jumping through the whoops when they broke down, making some smart calls. And I mean, like we've said 4 million times, I'm going to add 4 million and one. I mean, Webb's he's a runner and gunner, man. He's a racer, and when it comes to the main and that gate drops, he's just going to get it done. So got a good start. He ran the pace, and I will agree with you guys a little bit. I don't know if it's not going to be like last year. There's too many good guys. Like this top 6 is just, it gets shuffled every week, whether wins one or AC wins one or Osborne's on the podium, and Roczen gets a 4th or Eli gets a 5th or Webb wins one. I think the points are going to be so interchangeable over these next handful of rounds, with guys basically being where they're at based on the start. I mean, absent Eli when he does what he did this weekend, but yeah, I just don't see him having the season that he did last year, which is railing off all kinds of wins right now. But a podium for him is good. It keeps him in the hunt. He's 6th in points, which looks ugly, but he's only 13 points out. Eli was here last week, and now he's only 5 out in 3rd. So, yeah, great ride. Looking for more, and like we've already stated, that this season is going to be one of the best in history, and looking forward to see what Webb's got next weekend.
For sure. There's just so much to talk about this year. I feel like there's a lot of people really showing up to, what they have been wanting the last few years that we may not have seen. Guys like Barcia, AC as a rookie. There's just been a lot of unknown things happening, and I feel like this past weekend we really saw, everyone that was expected to be a contender, coming into this year. I feel like that's what we saw this past weekend. Honestly, Barcia's weekend, I think, from being 18th place in qualifying and starting your day like that, and still salvaging a 9th place, because I felt like that was a pretty good rebound. Honestly, it doesn't look good, and I think he was running 7th for most of the main event, but at the same time, to start your day that shitty and be able to rebound to a 9th, that's not too bad. The bike looked like it wasn't really gelling in the whoops and in some of the corners, but he definitely salvaged his weekend with a 9th. I don't know if he's still sick or not. I can't remember. I didn't watch the press conference either, so I'm not sure if anybody talked about that, but I do know he's been sick he was sick last weekend, I believe. So kind of curious to see how he rebounds. I feel like the result looks worse than what it is, because all these guys have had kind of a throwaway round besides Kenny, really. So Damon, what's your thoughts on the 51?
Yeah, I've already stated, and I know people were really surprised at it, but it wasn't his night. I mean, his qualifying was horrible. I thought it was funny when Diffie and Ricky were watching him in that second session, like, oh, he's going to lay it down. And then throw out just to look like a gnarly lap, and he still was sitting 18th. I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah, it was not good.
But I mean, for where he was at, I mean, he pulled off a pretty decent start, and for him to consistently be 7th and battle with Brayton and Mookie, who are pillars in the whoops, and Barcia's bike looked dangerously scary in the whoops, and he endoed more times than anyone off of that Dragon's back before the finish. But I mean, hey, to pull it in for a 9th on the night, and Cooper and Eli both already had throwaway rounds. He's still 2nd in points, 3 back from Kenny, so not too bad. It's in one of our questions for next weekend, but I'm just really curious to see what Barcia and the team bring to Glendale. I know they said, and they're not pumped on the setup. I don't remember how he looked in the heat, but they either kept it consistently, and maybe they threw the kitchen sink at the bike and just couldn't figure it out. But 9th on the night is not horrible. I'm just glad he didn't completely kill himself, because that's kind of when I saw how he was doing in practice, I'm like, oh boy, please don't just send it and die. But no, he kept it, quote, consistent for him, and 9th is not great, but everybody so far 3 rounds in has kind of had at least one shitty round. So, I mean, not a great weekend, but we'll move on, and he's still in the points hunt and not over yet. So just curious to see what the team brings for Glendale, and that's kind of all I have on the 51.
Weez, what you got on the 51?
I was actually really surprised with Barsha's weekend, like you said, like with the qualifying stuff like that. But I really thought he was gonna bring a little bit more to the table in the race. Being he's got to be super stoked that he's still in this title hunt, and I'm more curious to how he's gonna rebound because Barsha's never been in this spot.
Right.
As far as, going into round 4, still in the title hunt, had the red plate for the first 3 rounds. So I'm curious how he's going to rebound, really. That's just my biggest take on Justin, because I thought he was going to bring a little bit more to the table, even though qualifying didn't go that well. Like you said, his bike wasn't set up and this, that, and the other. But Barsha, I think, is a really big racer as well, as far as it doesn't really matter how he does in qualifying. He's going to go out there and send it. So kind of surprised that he didn't do that. I mean, he did, but he got 9th. I feel like could have picked a couple more people off, but maybe he just wasn't feeling comfortable. And the best thing that he thought for the situation was to go ahead and ride a safe way to 9th. I mean, lost a ton of points. The points got a lot tighter with, more than just handing the red plate over to Kenny. It also closed a lot of it up to Endo and Tomac and those type of riders. So curious. I was really surprised that he was that far back. Even if his bike wasn't that good, I still expected he at least would have clawed his way up to 5th or 6th. So the biggest thing with him to keep him in this hunt is going to be this weekend in Glendale. So we'll see what he could respond with. But kind of surprised on Barsha's ride.
I was a little bummed, but really thinking about it, we saw Webb get a 12th last weekend as the defending champion. So I feel like he's okay. He's only 3 points back from Roxon, so he's definitely still in it. I like you said, this weekend's big for him if he wants to remain a championship threat. He keeps saying on social media that he likes Arizona, so I'm kind of excited to see what he's got. I don't believe in years past. I believe most of the time the Arizona track doesn't break down as much, so kind of excited to see what that bike looks like this weekend, just because it looks so good every night except for Anaheim 2. So definitely look for a rebound. I was hoping he could just salvage a 6th or a 7th, but to dial it back and just ride it home smart is probably the safer bet. So as well as Barsha, Anderson kind of had a weird main event. He came out swinging, then he kind of hit a slump and lost a couple spots, and then all of a sudden he made a couple passes again, and I thought it was just a really odd race for him. He wasn't jumping through the whoops. He was trying to skim the whole main event, and like Damon said earlier, that definitely hurt him. So Damon, what's your thoughts on your guy, the 2-1?
I mean, kind of the sound I have for his weekend is he started 6th and he caught fire for sure. He was looking super saucy in the beginning. He was in 3rd, and then I don't really know what happened. It hit about halfway, like maybe a little bit past half, about 12 minutes in, and then he just hit a weird lull. Like he just couldn't catch on to jumping through the whoops, especially that second set. The first set hurt him, but the second set really hurt him even worse because there was a shot where Webb and AC, I think AC caught on to Webb jumping through him, and they took the same line, and man, they caught him quick, and they both passed him, I think, within like a lap and a half. I think Webb, Osborne, and AC all had him, so he was already back to like 6th. And then it was weird. With like 3 or 4 minutes to go, he caught fire. He like passed AC, and then he was hounding Osborne at the finish. So, 5th place isn't great, but for how the main was potentially going to end up when he hit that lull, it's not too bad. I'm not really sure what happened. I'm glad he definitely woke his ass up, and I still don't think he was jumping through the whoops at the end. So I don't know if he found a line way to the left or the right of both sets, but I don't know. It was definitely weird. Not super pumped on it. He's still 4th in points, 9 out, which isn't horrible. Definitely a weird main, and I'm hoping in Glendale he could get a start and be up front like he was, and then just be consistently Ando the whole time, not have that weird lull. I haven't seen the track layout to see what it's going to be, but like you said, Glendale's kind of a track that doesn't break down as much, so maybe that plays in his favor if there's a whoop section or a super gnarly rhythm. So looking for kind of the same out of Ando this weekend in Glendale, just to keep it consistently good the whole time, and be able to get back on the podium would be nice.
Yeah, that would be huge for him. I think if he can string a couple podiums together in the next couple of weeks, I think a win's coming in the near future. I just think he needs to build some momentum, get on the box a couple times, and run the pace. He is a little bit off the pace right now.
I agree.
So I think he needs to focus on getting good starts and running up front, and finding that pace again these next couple of weeks, and then from that point on, the sky's the limit for him. I do think he can still win this thing. He's obviously done it before, so he knows what it takes, and we've seen it the first few rounds of the year. He's been pretty consistent. He's been pretty sneaky, but at the same time, this guy's he's got to string together a couple podiums. He's got to find his pace, and he's got to go out and try to win a race here in the next few weeks if he wants to, a chance to win the title. That's what I believe the keys to getting in this championship fight are for Jason Anderson. So we'll see what he ends up doing, but I think that's what it's going to take. So let's talk about his teammate, Zach Osborne. He had a rough heat race.
Wait, you got anything? You got anything on
shit,
Ando?
yeah. My bad.
Yeah. All right. No worries.
I almost did it again.
Yeah, almost snuck me by again.
I shut it down for you. I got you.
Thanks.
All you gotta do is shit on me real quick.
Nah. All right. Well, only thing I had from Anderson is, you guys notice a few of the kind of stiff block passes he had on Osborne?
Yeah, I did. That was a little odd.
Like 2 or 3 of them, come up really high. So I was thinking, man, I wonder how that's going to go when they go back to the pits.
Great point. I heard after the main, Wacko was not happy with Ando. I heard they had some saucy words with each other. More Osborne being mad with Ando. But yeah, that was a great point. That Ando definitely had some hard passes on him, which I was surprised at. I was also surprised that Webb sent Ando off the track there. I don't know if you guys caught that he had to ride the ambulance lane right next to the finish line.
Yeah, I see that.
So I thought maybe if Ando was going to catch back up to Webb, it was going to get saucy, but that's when he was kind of hitting that lull. But yeah, it was kind of weird to see the slamming of the teammates for sure, because we know they both can dish it. But yeah, it's going to get – I'm just –
they're both good at dishing it for sure. But I also know that they're – pretty close friends as well. So that's when I was like, wow, he's really doesn't give a fuck that they're friends right now. I mean, he was jumping ruts, making sure he was making that pass in.
He was making vintage Jason Anderson versus Cole Seeley moves on him.
Because there was after that second set of whoops, when he caught back up to him, right before, literally the corner before the finish line, he cut all 4 of those ruts and just pretty much ran Osborne almost into the tough blocks pretty much. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay, I guess you guys aren't on the same team then. That's cool.
Yeah, I was pretty shocked, to be quite honest, and I'm not really sure, if there's something going on there, but I just think Anderson races like that no matter who it is. He's a very hard guy to get around and make a pass stick. He's just like Barcia. Rides a wide bike. He and Osborne's this way too. He's not innocent either, but doesn't make it easy on you. Whether you're faster than him or not, he's gonna do his best to keep you behind him. But I was definitely surprised. And with that said, Osborne had a shitty heat race, had a shitty start to the day, and he had a rough qualifying day as well. I believe he qualified 15th or something like that. So. Definitely responding in the main event for a 4th place. So good recovery for him on the weekend. Weez, what's your thoughts on the 16 machine?
16. Yeah, he answered to his teammate kind of running him high. And throughout that, he really kept his cool. Osborne usually could be a little bit of a hothead, but it seemed like it didn't rattle his feathers too much what Anderson was doing to him. He still made a clean pass on him and really kept his focus on the race. So other than that, Osborne, rode a great race. He's up to where we predicted or thought he would be. I think every single one of us had in our preseason predictions had Osborne in the top 5. So he's living up to what we thought it would be. I mean, if you look at it, besides the top two of Kenny and Tomac, this race between Webb, Osborne, Anderson, AC, those could switch anytime.
Yeah,
And
super,
they did throughout. Yeah, and they did throughout that race multiple times. As far as Anderson going to third, but then it was Osborne, but then it was Webb, but then AC was in the mix. So those are it. So far throughout this season, I've seen like it's gonna be one guy that's just better than anyone else, and then like second or sometimes even third through like seventh, it's just pulling out of the hat to pick because it's not necessarily going to be the same guy every time. So that's what's so entertaining about this year's racing. But other than that, Osborne rode a great race, doing what we thought he was going to do, and I feel like he's in his spot, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think he's finally found where he belongs. I know the ceiling's a little bit higher than what he's shown so far, but I think he's fallen into a groove, and I think it's good for him. I know he's not satisfied, but at the same time, you got to build on things, and I think a fourth place is definitely something you can build on moving forward. So, Damon, what was your thoughts on the weekend for him?
We'll say after qualifying, I was like, that's not great, and that's not usually where he qualifies, but we'll see. He'll pick it up in the heat, and dude, I was terrified after that heat. He hole shotted and barely qualified for the main. He rode like garbage. I was like, dude, that bike is not where they need it. They better figure it the fuck out, because if not, he's getting like him and Bogle are going to be battling for 16th. He better figure this shit out.
Christ.
So, but he started third or fourth, and unfortunately, he got shuffled back pretty early. He was back to sixth, and I'm like, here we go. But then all of a sudden, there was like 5 minutes to go. He kind of hovered in sixth for most of the main. And then all of a sudden, with 5 to go, he got Anderson when he kind of hit that lull, and he got AC. And then actually, I thought he was going to get a little bit close. If he had time, he might have got a little closer to Webb. But, I mean, for the team to throw everything they could at that bike after the heat to figure it out, and for him to take a fourth on the night, you got to be pumped on that, because I think the whole day besides the main was complete shit. So, but he rode hard, and he looked super dicey. I mean, like we already stated with Anderson, and then him and AC. And I will say, as a side note, a lot of guys picking on the 16. Him and AC went at it last weekend when they were slamming each other, and then him and Ando. So everybody's picking on the short guy, it seems like. But no, he rode good. He looked dicey, and I agree with Weeds. We kind of put him anywhere between 3 to 6, and it's super cool to see Adam as a rookie, Dyson in there with Ando who's a champ, Osborne, and Webb, and then you got. We'll hit on Bags right on the night, and then Barsh. I mean, that's 8 guys right there that could win or have
fucking
won.
Insane,
it's
man.
It's crazy. So I just hope the season continues with the technical tracks, and everybody can just get healthy. And man, this season's it's been insane. But Osborne, he rode great, and I expect to see him here throughout. I hopefully he can get a podium and maybe sneak potential win in there if he could hole shot and just run away and has an awesome night. But no, I agree with Jacob. We kind of put him third or fourth, fourth to sixth, and he's doing just that so far. So just got to keep it up, and I'm just glad he turned the night around, because it was looking really shitty from the start.
Definitely, I think, dude, the ceiling's so high for him, and he is. What is he? Is he 30 yet?
I think so. I think he's 30.
So I don't know how much longer he's planning on racing Supercross and motocross over here. I know he wants a future in the off-road scene, but yeah, I mean, if he really wants to be a title contender, it's got to be now. It's got to be now, maybe next year, and after that, it's just hard to really predict how much of a contender he's going to be, in his 30s. So definitely.
He is 30. He will be turning 31 in September, which is crazy.
Gotcha. So yeah,
crazy.
He's only got a couple more years. It's kind of weird to see him, say that he's in his prime when he's 30 or 31 years old, but kind of seems to be a trend nowadays. And I'm definitely rooting for the guy. I've always liked Osborne's, never say die style. I think it all started with the whole Savachi deal, coming from last place or whatever. So definitely a lot of fight in this guy, and it shows week in and week out. So let's talk about AC. He got stuck behind Webb for a while. I think he was kind of afraid to really start some shit with Webb. he definitely should have made a move, as soon as he possibly could, and that's easier said than done. But I do believe he got stuck behind him and just kind of fell into that pace, and the rest of the race he just didn't quite look like himself. So, Weaves, what's your thoughts on the 9 getting stuck behind Webb and just his weekend as a whole?
Yeah, so I believe it was a little bit before the show when we were chatting about that he really throws it down in the qualifying and heat races, throws some blazing laps. He's great for the first, 5 to 8 laps in the main. Then it seems as a trend, he's kind of been settling in a little bit. So for the number 9, I don't know, maybe we're talking about because he moved up to the other bike or the bigger bike. So that is more powerful, more cases to get that arm pump, blah, blah, blah. But man, I think there's more in the tank for him. I feel like him getting a 6 is him settling. And I think that he could run with those top guys all day. And he's really the only one, and unless when Roczen gets his crazy flashes of, like he did in St. Louis, I feel like AC's really the only one that could tame the beast in Tomac when he's on absolute rails. So I just really want him to kind of save a little bit or whatever he needs to do for that second half of the main event. But other than that, he's been great. This was a bad weekend for him, getting the 6th place. So I feel like there's much more to come from the number 9, and he's going to be killing it. I really do.
I agree, and there's I can't even imagine what this guy's going to look like in a year or two. I think obviously I kind of wrote him off coming into the year. I didn't expect him to come in, as ready to run this pace as he has. He's shown a lot of maturity, but at the same time, the last week or two, we've seen some rookie mistakes out of him, and that was to be expected. That's kind of what I was expecting coming into the year. But yeah, the ceiling's super high. The year is obviously not over yet, and I do think a win's coming this year for sure. This guy's a real contender. Maybe not this year for the title, but just look for him in the future, man. He's building right now, and the best he can do is learn from the mistakes he's made so far and move on, and just do his best to not make those same mistakes. He's been lightning fast in qualifying every week, so everybody knows he's got the speed, and that's always been obvious. So I think right now it just needs to work on his mistakes and polish his racecraft a little bit, and I think that's pretty much all he needs to improve on. Damon, what do you got?
Yeah, it just sucks that he, ran the pace and did so well at A1. So I feel like all of our standards for him were immediately, the bar was raised right away at A1. But yeah, I was pretty bummed on his weekend. I thought, he was definitely, whether he saw Webb's name and number and it got completely in his head and he was trying to be too nice to make a pass and didn't want to make contact, but definitely got stuck in Webb's pace, which was a huge bummer. And then, when Webb caught Ando, and then passed Ando, and then was in 3rd by himself. And then Osborne rode up on AC, and then, AC couldn't get around Anderson, then Osborne passed him and then kind of left him by himself. So I don't know if, him getting caught in Webb's pace kind of threw him off, or, the track breakdown was super gnarly and he just said, you know what, I'll take a 6 tonight. I don't need to push it, which that very well could have been with, all the injuries and the craziness Adam's been through. Maybe the track broke down super gnarly with about 5 minutes to go and just said, you know what, I got a gap to Brayton behind me, and I'm just going to take the 6 for tonight, which super, mentally that's pretty smart. He's still 5th in points. He's 10 out. He's still in the title hunt for sure. I don't expect him to, win it or anything like that, but, to be in the top 6 with the 5 guys that we've stated that are in front of him are the best in Supercross in the world, and to be already on that level, it's incredibly impressive. And I feel like this year he just needs to keep building like he has. And in 21 and 22, he could be an absolute fucking force to be reckoned with. So, not a great weekend for AC. I feel like that's how most of these weekends are going to go, up and down for him. But hey, to have a down weekend to be 6th place with those 5 guys in front of you is not too terrible. So, not good. He's been rolling in practice, and hopefully he could just put a whole night together, and a win is coming for sure from this kid. So not a great weekend, but I'm sure he's going to lay the practice laps down on, on the weekend he's going to lay those fast laps down and be way up in the front, and hopefully qualifying goes well, and maybe a potential podium this weekend in Glendale. We'll see.
For sure. And before we kind of wrap this deal up, I just want to talk about Blake Baggett real quick. I feel like he's been silently good this year. He's shown some speed. I think if he didn't clip that tough block and go down pretty hard at the beginning of that main event, I think it could have been a very different weekend for him. As Weaver said before we got on the show, he's shown a lot of potential this year, and I definitely think he's capable of stringing together some solid top fives and a couple podiums. Obviously we saw him win his first Supercross race last year, so that's always a possibility too. But realistically and consistently speaking, I could see this guy being a consistent top five, possibly a podium guy by the end of the year. He's showing a lot of improvement. So Weaver, I know you wanted to talk about him, so let's see what you got.
Well, see, you just said that, and it's hard to put consistent and Blake Baggett in the same sentence.
It is.
So when he comes out, El Chupacabra. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Chupacabra. All right, if I say it fast, maybe no one will notice. But
3
anyways,
hours later.
so yeah, I don't know, man. He showed some good speed at A1. I don't even know. Anyone know what he finished at St. Louis?
14th. Oh, St. Louis?
Yeah.
Give me a second. Keep rolling.
I'll keep rolling
drop
with
it randomly.
So he's got this crazy speed. I think because he did actually for a split second make the pass on Roczen. Roczen got him back right away, but
got ninth.
He was
not great, I guess.
Ninth. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. The consistency in Blake Baggett, it's just not going to go in the same sentence, at least for a while. For Supercross, he could be consistent outdoors, but I just don't see it happening, to be honest, for a little while indoors. But man, I think because he ran Roczen down from about 2 to 3 seconds back, and I kept watching the time since I'm a big Roczen fan. I was glued on that, those intervals with the how far first and second was between each other. So I kept watching that really close. Kept getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Made the pass, dumped it over in the corner the next turn. But I think that he would have went ahead and passed Roczen, put maybe a second or two on Roczen, and Tomac was winning. Tomac was just not going to lose no matter what. But I feel like if Blake Baggett wouldn't have fell, it would have made it a pretty interesting race as far as, it might have been into, maybe lap 12 or something to where Tomac made the pass and for the lead instead of lap 8. So if he didn't fall, it would have been number 3, number 4, number 94 is how I saw that panning out. He was just going faster. He just looked better. He was going faster, and it was definitely a bummer that he fell. And he kind of landed in one of those spots to where the ground was harder than hell, and it just probably hurt. It wasn't, Christian Craig Ferrandis, get launched into the pits type of crash, but that crash definitely hurt because if it didn't, he would have clawed his way up back into the top 10 for sure. But other than that, I mean, he's a silent killer, man. He's going to be one of those that he's randomly going to get a win or like a second, man. Blake Baggett's hard to predict, and that's, if you watch interviews with him, that's one of the things that pisses himself off the most is how he could be on it and then he just sucks. So that's all I got on the number 4.
Damon, finish her up.
Yeah, Blake definitely was a bummer. He was coming in hot and he crashed so hard. I'm surprised he got up and finished 14th, but yeah, I definitely feel like he was going better than Kenny. It would have been a barn burner at the end to see if Kenny would have pulled the trigger. I definitely think he would have bumped Webb off the podium for sure. I honestly think it still would have went Tomac, Kenny. I think Baggett for sure would have got third, but Baggett and Kenny would have battled the entire time. It would have been interesting to see if they could have closed the gap to Eli to keep him a little bit more honest. He would have won, no doubt. But yeah, it's just, I know people are saying like Tomac and Mystery are, like him and some of his mystery rides, but I feel like Baggett is even worse. Like his off nights are just even worse than Tomac's off nights. But I feel like so far this season, he's been a little bit better. not as like totally outside the top 10, like complete shit ride. So hopefully he's not too banged up and he can come into Glendale ripping and hopefully carry the speed he had last weekend and potentially put it on the box.
Where he got the win last year.
He got
the silent win last year.
Yeah, he got his first career win here in Arizona. So he's got to be excited to get back there and see what he can do. Definitely shows a lot of potential though, and like Weaver said, he is a silent killer. He can show up on any weekend and steal a podium away from anybody. So it's kind of exciting to watch, and you know, it's funny because he's just as unpredictable as Tomac. Maybe not on the same winning level, obviously, but he is pretty unpredictable. And but yeah, definitely rough weekend for him. He had something going there for sure. So let's do this the same deal again we did for 250s. I'm going to ask you guys some questions, and then we're going to wrap this puppy up. Beaves, I'll start with you this time. Was this the start of a Eli Tomac win streak?
I hope so, as long as at least Kenny keeps getting second.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't know, man. He seems like championship material. I really think so. I think he had his throwaway ride, and Tomac's gonna be good. He's gonna be tough the rest of the year. So yeah, I think this put fuel on his fire.
Damon, can Kenny hold the red plate? And if so, for how long?
Yes, and if we're going into round 4, I'm gonna say he holds it till I look like a fucking dumbass, but I think he holds it till 8 or 9. I think.
I was gonna say 8. I was gonna say 8.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go 8 or 9.
Who takes it from him?
Yeah.
Oh, Shark, man. The 3. The 3's taking that.
God, that's risky
Sick.
territory.
Right, that's
Dude,
bold.
It's hard to not pick him, man. I mean, so far he's had one throwaway ride, which was Anaheim, which you can explain with the bike, and then I would say the Shark's been there the last 2 weekends because I feel like with St. Louis he was just in a shittier position. But I mean, dude, it's so hard to pick who's going to take the red plate from Kenny, but I got to go with just pure balls out speed. I'm going to say the Shark takes it at 8.
Fair enough. Weaver, how does Barcia respond to a rough weekend?
Well, I'm trying to think of how the track's going to be at Glendale. You're going to have, at least the last couple of years, there's been like a insane amount of whoops that are just concrete, rock hard whoops. So Kenny's going to be fast in those. Other than that, I'm going to say 4th, and I'm stamping 4th. That's his comeback, right?
And I'll give Jacob a pass because, I mean, dude, the last 2 years, Barcia's been pretty much hurt by the time we get to the 4th round, so it's hard to even.
Yeah,
I mean, not to shit on
that's his first time like doing this because
Right.
he does good, then he just like fucking wads up,
Right.
and you know he's hurt. So
for
it's
him to
hard.
be-
This is
for him to
a
be-
rookie.
Yeah, for him to be healthy, I'm on Weave's side. If he gets, I'm gonna say 4th would be pretty good for him. I could say we could stamp it, but I mean, dude, from here on out, he's gonna be the biggest question mark because he's never been in he's never been in this spot, and B, he's never not been hurt at this point of the season. And I know we're only 4 rounds in, but he always seems to just auger himself so
Like
early.
a wrist injury or something that
Something
just like
nagging
he
the rest of the
sucks.
year.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not been like I broke my femur, but it's been just something to where he's not himself.
Right.
All right, let's move on. Who did I? Oh, okay, I'm on Damon now. Can AC find his flow in AZ?
Yeah, I think these last 2 rounds have been, you know, he had the last lap mistake in St. Louis, and I think this round in Anaheim is a little bit off. I think the not breaking down soil of Arizona, and I think just how the track maybe might be laid out, I think he's going to come in, you know, blazing fast, and I think finally this one he's maybe back to at 100% AC of A1, but I think he'll be in the top 5, potentially knocking on the door for a podium this weekend. I think he finds his flow and bounces back in a big way this weekend.
For sure, and I'll do the same thing as I did last time. I'll just answer this last one. Can Webb find his way into the championship fight? I think so. I think he's going to start stringing together a bunch of podiums. I don't know if he's got race-winning speed right now, but I think we'll see a little bit more of on and off the podium for Tomac. I don't think I don't think he's going to be on the podium the rest of the year by any means. Talking about Tomac, but I do think Webb is more capable of being a consistent podium guy. So I don't know. Obviously Tomac's got more speed and he's got more of the potential to win on any given weekend. But at the same time, he's got more inconsistency, in my opinion. And I think these tracks are challenging enough to where no one's going to be, perfect the rest of the year. But I do look for Webb to start chipping away at the points deficit he's got. He's a little far back, but at the same time, he's one of the most consistent guys in the sport right now. So I look for him to recover and then start chipping away at this thing. What do you guys think?
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, I mean, for him to be 13 back is where
I'm gonna go with Corbin, and Webb's gonna slowly start chipping it away. Do you guys hear me? Like we did?
Yeah. That's funny what happened there.
That was weird.
I thought Damon was going to talk.
Yeah, I thought like they cut out for a second. I thought Jacob was talking. I didn't think I could hear anything, but
I was talking, but I couldn't like hear myself talking.
You could just jump back into your point real quick.
Well, I'll just. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
All right. The last two things I have for this show is one, I totally agree with Corbin. Webb's going to start chipping away. It's going to get pretty close. He might even sneak in a red plate just because Tomac's going to be Tomac and something happened to the other contender. And then I had something to say about AC real quick, is just thinking about the track breaking down and how he could have arm pump and stuff, what holds him back in these last 5-6 laps of these main events is I think he's going to be ridiculously fast. The whole main Dale track's going to be like a California practice track, and he's just going to be going super fast the whole time. So
I agree.
I think AC is going to be the silent killer this weekend. And then that's all.
I'm in. I'm all in. Damon, you got any last minute remarks?
I agree with both you guys on Webb. I think he'll be sneaky. I know he's had his throwaway round already, but I mean, he won the damn thing last year, and I think he's counting on Tomac having a big throwaway and then maybe pressuring Kenny, and maybe Kenny having just a minor mishap, maybe like a 5th or a 6th, and he'll be right back in. So he's right there, but I agree with Jacob. I think AC is going to have a killer weekend this weekend, and I'm gonna say I think the shark continues this weekend. I think maybe not as big of a win and just substantially killing the field, but I think a better start. And I think it's going to be another shark week. I'm going to say Tomac, Kenny, AC for the podium.
I can see it. I don't even want to predict because I'm tired of sounding and feeling like a fucking idiot. So
I'm going to feel like an idiot next week and win.
I'm just going to hold off on that. But good show, guys. Definitely a longer show, but at the same time, it was a fun one. Hopefully the excitement continues. This was a pretty exciting weekend of racing, so I hope it doesn't get boring from this point on. But with that said, don't forget to use our discount code at bloodlubricants.com. Go get yourself some oil, some lubricants, some detailer, some chain lube, whatever else you want. Use code WIDEOPEN for 25% off on your order. Also, on Wednesday, I'll be recording a podcast with a special guest, so stay tuned for that. I'll announce it on social media probably within the next 2 days or so. So excited to make a big announcement. It's a big step for us. It might be stupid to other people, but it's a big deal for us. So excited to get this out there and finally get the monkey off our back, because I know we've been wanting to talk about it the last few weeks. So stay tuned for that little bonus podcast on Wednesday. And with that said, that was episode 17 of the Wide Open MX Show. Hope you guys enjoy it. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, boys. Peace.
See ya.
It's the Wide Open MX Show. If you don't know, you better know. It's the Wide Open MX Show. Big Barrel. If you don't, you better stop the holler. It's no more. most dope show in the world. It's the Wide Open MX Show.